The gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Pressley, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Maloney. We must treat this climate crisis like lives depend on it, because they quite literally do. In my district, the Massachusetts 7th, the sea level rise caused by an increase in global temperatures, which is a direct result of the continued operations of the oil and gas companies before this committee, will destabilize families and sink entire communities. From Cambridge and Chelsea to the Fenway and East Boston, my constituents are living in regions that will be completely underwater if we do not take bold action to transition to 100% renewable, zero-emission energy sources as outlined in the Green New Deal. And as I fight for the livelihoods of my neighbors, I'm clear-eyed that my opposition is the massive lobbying campaign by the billion-dollar corporations appearing before this committee today. Your companies invest hundreds of millions of dollars in lobbying efforts each year, some of which is disclosed and reported. But the truth is, these amounts represent only a fraction of what is actually spent against our efforts to save lives and our planet. We know a key part of Big Oil's disinformation campaign is funding and backing so-called shadow groups to fight against our climate justice efforts. Shadow groups are think tanks, pressure organizations, and other groups who receive funding from industry to engage in advocacy the industry doesn't want its fingerprints on. Mr. Woods, after your former lobbyists admitted joining shadow groups to undermine efforts on climate, Exxon stated that his comments were, quote, entirely inconsistent, unquote, with your company's work. Mr. Woods, do you stand by that statement, yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Woods, is it your testimony that Exxon has not at any point funded any think tanks, advocacy organizations, or other shadow groups against climate change efforts? Yes or no?
The position we take is transparent, and we publish the groups that we support on our website.
Well, whatever your statements are now, I think the truth is clear here that for years, Exxon has funded dozens of these shadow groups, like the Heartland Institute, for example, a leading climate science denial group, which has stated that global warming is actually good for the planet. Mr. Woods, do you commit right here to stop funding organizations that reject the science of climate change, yes or no?
We do not support the Heartland group, so.
Yes or no? Do you commit right here to not fund organizations that reject the science of climate change?
We do not support climate denial. We do not ask people to lobby anything different than our publicly supported position or expressed position.
With millions of dollars that are going to lobbyists, super PACs, and shadow groups, these corporations refuse to invest in their own workers to ensure they have a future in a renewable energy economy. A just transition from pollution-based profits to healthy green living means that no worker will be left behind. Mr. Woods, what percentage of ExxonMobil's annual revenue is being used to train your workers for jobs in renewable energy sectors? What percentage?
We are focused on making sure that our workforce is capable of operating our current operations, and we are investing time and resources in developing new solutions.
I'm going to reclaim my time since you weren't providing a percentage. So will you commit to providing this committee with the documentation to this answer?
We'll work with you to give you what you need.
All right. Mr. Worth, what percentage of Chevron annual revenue is being used to train your workers for jobs in renewable energy sectors?
Congressman, I don't have a number on that. I can tell you we're committed to meeting the needs of the world today and the future, and our workforce is prepared to do that.
Sorry, I'm going to run out of time. Will you commit to providing this committee with the documentation on this answer?
We will work with the committee to provide responses.
All right. Ms. Watkins, what percentage of Shell's annual revenue is being used to train your workers for jobs in renewable energy sectors?
Congresswoman, I don't have a number, but I will be happy to work with you to get one. What I can say is that what we're finding is that we have engineers that have built offshore oil and gas platforms in the Gulf.
I'm sorry. We're now able to. I'm going to run out of time, but thank you for that commitment to work with the committee. Mr. Lawler, what percentage of BP America's annual revenue is being used to train your workers for jobs in renewable energy sectors?
I'll need to review what that number is, but what I can say, we're creating entire business units for the renewable sector, entire business units, spending up to $5 billion a year by 2030.
Will you work with the committee to provide us with those actual percentages?
Yes, we will.
Okay, so I think the point here is that putting profits before people like those in my district and the workers in their very own companies is the reason this crisis is so dire. One climate scientist said, quote, what we do in the next 10 years will matter for 10,000 years, unquote. I believe that what we do in the next 10 days on infrastructure investments will be the true predictor of our planet's future. The Build Back Better Act is a climate justice bill and a workers' justice bill. We can and we must act with urgency. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back.